Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Thank you for listening to this segment, which is an excerpt from Speech in the Silence, the official podcast of Blazing Star Oasis in the San Francisco Bay Area, California. Speech in the Silence is a monthly program offering lectures, music, interviews, readings, announcements, and news. See the comments section on this video for a link to the complete program where this segment was first heard. Visit speechinthesilence.com to subscribe to the podcast to hear new programming as soon as it is available. Be sure to visit us on the web at speechinthesilence.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook at Speech in the Silence. You may contact us at thelemapodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Love is the law. Love under will.
Hello, this is Lon DuQuette, and I'm going to record my Noticon 2015 speech that I delivered at NOTOCON X in Austin, Texas, back in August. We didn't get a good recording of it that day, which is too bad because I had a cool slide presentation with animation and Homer Simpson being initiated and all sorts of cool things. So without the wonderful audience reaction, you're just going to have to imagine that this is a much better speech than it sounds right now. So anyway, here we go. I started by saying, welcome to NOTOCON X. Who knows? For some of us, this weekend might be Ordeal X. 10 times the trinity of triads have traveled from Tacoma to Tallahassee, Tucson to Tonawanda, Tuscaloosa to Terrapon Springs. 10 times this trusty troop has trekked to tryst, trotting out our titillating threads, tinting and teasing our tresses, and tipping tankards to toast, and telling tales. Some of us will even touch tongues and tickle triceps. Okay, 2015 EV is a big year for OTO anniversaries. Last month, we marked the date of the greater feast 30 years ago of our beloved Caliph, Hymenaeus Alpha, Grady McMurtry. And next month, we'll celebrate the 30th anniversary of the election of his successor, our Frater Superior, Hymenaeus Beta. On a more personal note, this coming November 15th, I will celebrate, or at least I'll observe, my 40th anniversary as an initiate member of OTO. This gives me the bittersweet distinction of being an active member of the OTO longer than any other living person. At the first OTO National Convention in 1997, which was held in Akron, Ohio, I was asked more or less at the last minute to deliver the closing remarks. I had nothing prepared, so I borrowed a scrap of paper and scribbled down a few words. And here's how I started. On the evening of November 15th, 1975, in Dublin, California, two extraordinary, somewhat elderly people, whom I had just met, welcomed me into their home and promptly proceeded to tie me up and blindfold me. I have been free ever since. At the banquet that followed, my initiator, Grady McMurtry, produced a very old volume of the Yi Ching, which had belonged to Aleister Crowley. It was filled with Crowley's handwritten marginal notes, and the front and back covers displayed Crowley's oil paintings on Oriental themes. Grady also brought out 6 wooden sticks that Crowley used to randomly generate I Ching hexagrams. I begged to be allowed to use Crowley's sticks and consult Crowley's text, and my question was very simple. What is the OTO to me? The unambiguous answer was hexagram number 7, the Army. For 40 of my 67 years, I've been in the Army of the OTO. Constance, who was initiated a few months after me, remains the senior female member of our order. She also asked me to point out to you that unless there are presently any other active priestesses who are 67 years old or older, she is also the oldest active priestess in the order. And for as long as we both continue to suck breath in this incarnation, we hope to proudly wear our seniority in this marvelous magical army. The generic title to my talk today is 40 Years in the OTO. I have to confess that many months ago when the organizers asked me for a title for my talk, I just threw that out there to see if it would stick. I know it doesn't sound very exciting, but for sure our 40 years in the OTO has been anything but dull. But to tell you the truth, even though Constance and I have a lot of history in the OTO, and we believe it's important for every member to be familiar with the order's history, I really don't want to drag you year by year through the agonies and ecstasies of our OTO adventures. Why, when I took my Minerval, I was forced to actually walk, bound and blindfold, from Heliopolis to Athens. Or was it Athens to Heliopolis? I had to recite the collected works of Aleister Crowley from memory. I had to telepathically tell Grady what number he was thinking of. I had to tell Phyllis which planetary talisman she had in her shoe. None of us really want to hear, "God damn it, I had to do it, then by thunder you should have to do it too." As a matter of fact, when anybody ever tells you something like that, that's a perfect time to say, with all fraternal love and respect, fuck you. I do think, however, that it's important to know, especially for those of you who are relatively new to the order, that the order was not always like it is today. For the first 75 years or so, the order existed almost as a formalized collection of shifting ideas in the mind of Aleister Crowley and a handful of his students and supporters. Except for a brief period around World War I, the order didn't even have a permanent business office or headquarters, and the mailing addresses and headquarters were homes of Crowley and others. There weren't any proper lodges to speak of that did degree initiations with any regularity until Frater Akkad established a group in Vancouver, out of which came Wilfred Smith, who moved to Southern California in 1922 and who eventually formed Agape Lodge in Hollywood. Agape Lodge met and worked out of Smith's residence and later moved to the residence of Jack Parsons in Pasadena. The order never grew to more than a handful of official members worldwide, nor did it do any initiations beyond the Man of Earth triad until Grady McMurtry resurrected the dormant organization in the early 1970s. At my Minerval initiation, Grady and Phyllis stressed Crowley's idea of OTO prophes houses, private residences of high-degree members who oversee the various degree ceremonies, Gnostic masses, classes, and events, and whose libraries are available to respectful members. It was how the OTO operated sporadically for Crowley, and it's how it operated pretty damn well for Agape Lodge. All my initiations took place in someone's home. or in my own home. And that's how Constance and I have operated Heru Raha Lodge since we were chartered in 1978. 10 years ago, my talk at NOTOCON 5 was titled Etiquette and Boundaries in a Fuck You Organization. I know some of you were there 10 years ago and heard the talk, but I'm also certain that many of you were not. And as goofy and as stupid as that little talk was, it still contained a message that I felt at the time was vitally important for us all to hear. And I believe it's still important for us to hear today. So this is a very abbreviated portion of that talk. The OTO is a Thelemic organization. To paraphrase DuQuette, the very term Thelemic organization is an oxymoron, a collection of militant individualists all trying like hell to discover and do their wills. Sounds like a recipe for chaos, and in many instances it is precisely that. Yet Crowley was inspired by the thought of a new aeon society that could merge the precepts of complete personal liberty with the necessities of self-imposed spiritual discipline. He designed the OTO to be the model of that society. A social organism that strives to balance the concepts of monarchy and democracy, aristocracy and egalitarianism, idealism and pragmatism, philosophy and science, stability and revolution, etiquette and boundaries. Membership in the OTO requires each of us not only to survive, but actually thrive within this paradox of liberty and discipline. This balance reflects the active-passive solar formula of the age itself, and that of the two-part, crowned and conquering Lord of the Aeon whom we adore. Heru Raha is the unique name for the two opposite and equal forms of the Egyptian god Horus. Hur-Par-Krat is the polite and passive innocent god of silence and infinite potential. His twin brother, Ra-Hur-Kut, is the loud and active, violent, hawk-headed avenger of the gods. Combined under one name, Heru Raha, they are the alternating current of life itself, the divine expression of the active, passive dynamics of spirit. As Thelemites, we identify with the sun. But why should the sun, the ultimate symbol of unity and singularity in our solar system, be identified with this double nature? From time immemorial, the doctrine of twin stars has bubbled secretly in the sanctuaries of the mysteries. Ancient traditions speak of a twin of our sun, a cosmic double about which it and our entire solar system revolve in a dance of hundreds of millions of years. Early Gnostics dubbed Satan the twin of Christ, suggesting a great solar mystery is hidden in the relationship. Just look at the relationship of the characters Saul and Satan Typhon in Crowley's Rite of Souls. You ever wonder what that was about? Science affirms that the secret of the life of the sun is a perpetual balancing act between two immense forces, the active thermonuclear process that burns the sun's fuel, causing light and energy to radiate from the inside outward into space, and the passive, gravitational presence of the sun's own mass. Active centrifugal force that gives the sun its glowing identity that bestows light and life to the universe, and passive centripetal outside inward force that keeps the burning process perpetually contained and stable. These two forces in perfect balance make our Lord the Sun a star in the company of stars. These two forces in perfect balance help define the sun's will. So too, every man and every woman is a star. And each of us owes our existence and our unique place in the cosmos to our own ability to balance within ourselves the microcosmic reflections of these same titanic forces. Forces we worship in their Egyptian forms as the wild, loud, vengeful, active Ra-Hur-Kut and his calm, silent, peaceful, passive brother Hur-Par-Krat. In the Aeon of Horus, the secret of success is to balance the two, to know when it's appropriate to put your finger to your lips and keep your mouth shut, and when it's appropriate to use that same finger to gouge the eye of some idiot and say, "Fuck you." Regardless, obviously, until we've achieved knowledge and conversation of our holy guardian angel, it's impossible for us to know for sure which, if any, course of action or behavior is appropriate in any given situation. But in matters that concern our lives in the OTO, we needn't flounder one moment in indecision, because we've been given a magical weapon that can instantly vaporize any doubt as to what we must do. It's our prime directive, and it states, "There is no law beyond do what thou wilt." So much confusion, so many problems and misunderstandings will be avoided if we simply remember the prime directive. Most fraternal or initiatory organizations require their members to swear an oath or a series of oaths by which he or she becomes honor-bound to observe and obey the rules of behavior, or in more genteel terms, the etiquette and boundaries of the organization. Among the rules are invariably those that require respect and obedience to the persons and decisions of the organization's hierarchical chain of command. The OTO is no exception. If you perceive it to be your will to be part of our order, then you agree to view the apparent restrictions your obligations place upon you as being facets and extensions of your will. It's not Orwellian at all. In fact, it simply means that no matter what the circumstances, you will somehow figure out how to continue doing your will, all the while observing the order's etiquette and boundaries. For most of us, that's pretty easy. We happily accept the discipline and the organization in order to become a more efficient soldier of freedom. For others, it's not so easy. And it's not for any of us to pass judgment on the personal magical complexities of another person's attitudes. I'm certainly incapable of making that judgment for anyone else. I can only say that for me, the OTO's etiquette and boundaries are the least restrictive aspects of my life. Lon DuQuette is the biggest obstacle to Lon DuQuette doing his will. In fact, in times when the rest of my life collapses around me, when I lose all structure, all direction, when my sinews are loosened and I sit numb and paralyzed in the dark night of the soul, when I've lost all other feeling, I can still count on the pain in the ass called the OTO. For the last 40 years, I've taken all the oaths and have lived the OTO experience from Minerval to the Sovereign Sanctuary. It may come as a surprise to some of you and a comfort to others when I tell you that no initiation, no oath, no obligation, no ceremony, no ordeal, no doctrine or tradition, written or oral, has ever asked me to violate the prime directive. On the contrary, at every step of my OTO journey, I've been obliged to execute the prime directive. Be that as it may, the OTO is full of people, and people aren't perfect. People make mistakes. People can sometimes be assholes. It's very likely that sooner or later you'll encounter someone who, out of ignorance or for reasons of personal gain, gratification, or self-aggrandizement, will attempt to do a number on you. That person might be a fellow member, a body master, a priest, or priestess, a member of the governing body, or even a high-degree officer. It doesn't matter what their degree or position. If you sincerely think they are using Thelemic doctrine, or order regulations, or policy to suggest that you do anything to violate the prime directive, you should feel comfortable concluding that that individual is no longer functioning as a faithful executor of their position in the order. And it's time to smile and respectfully say, with the utmost fraternal love and goodwill, fuck you. Now, I'm not actually suggesting that you'll always have to use the words fuck you, but I gotta confess it's very satisfying when you can. But really, it's seldom wise to go off half-cocked and say fuck you first and ask questions later. Remember your etiquette, and that the key to executing the prime directive lies in a perfect balancing of the powers of the Horus brothers. I won't lie to you, we all know some Thelemites are assholes. But that certainly doesn't mean that all assholes are Thelemites. Nor does it follow that in order to act like a proper Thelemite, you must feel somehow obliged to constantly behave like a rude, arrogant, loud-mouthed, bull-headed, dogmatic, Book of the Law-thumping, Crowley-quoting, unapologetic asshole bully. I despise bullies. I won't tolerate bully or bullying. I've had my fill of that shit in junior high. If you find yourself in a discussion or an argument, perhaps about the doctrines of Thelema or the virtues of magical pedigrees, and you feel a tinge of that old, uncomfortable, peer-pressured insecurity you felt when you were bullied in junior high, that probably means something besides honest dialogue is going on. Stop for a moment and trust your intuition. Trust yourself. Listen to both Horus brothers. The magical bully, like all bullies, operates from the sinking sands of his or her own fears and insecurities. The bully seeks false relief by trying to cast those same fears and insecurities upon others. This is the last type of person you should allow yourself to fall unduly under the influence of. For they are ignoring the prime directive, and they are trying to bully you into doing the same. The Lord bring you to the accomplishment of your true wills, the great work, the summum bonum, true wisdom, and perfect happiness. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. Thank you all very much.